Introducing our students. So why don't we quickly go around and by order on my screen, just tell them where you're from and the area, the portfolio of expertise that you're in. Yara, you are at the top of my screen. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Yara Kumbi. I'm from Mozambique and I work in health system strengthening.
Are you in Mozambique right now?
I'm currently in Chicago.
Carl, and then Dan Yang. Carl, can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Hi, Sam. I'm Carl from the Philippines. I work on entrepreneurship policy and technology policy. I'm also in Chicago right now.
Hi, my name is Dan Yang. I work in LGBT and HIV in China. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Marina, and then Ferry.
Hi, I'm Marina from New Jersey, and I work in economic empowerment and conflict.
Hello, I'm Ferry from Zimbabwe, and I've worked on water and sanitation issues before coming to Chicago. Thank you.
Jenica and Yulia. Jenica?
Hi there, I'm Jenica. I'm interested in the intersection of conflict and climate change in Burkina Faso.
Hi, my name is Yulia. I'm from New York. My areas of interest are peace and security and gender issues.
Marina, and then Menghoon. Marina? Mariana. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. So sorry.
No, it's fine. My name is Mariana and I work for the Mexican government.
Hi, my name is Menghoon. I come from Cambodia and my interest is in the area of economic development.
Jacob?
Hi.
Unmute.
Okay. Hi, my name is, I'm from South Sudan. My area of focus is on environmental policy.
Well, David is on our Chasta. I don't think he knows you at all. You're gonna have to do a really long introduction.
Hi, I'm Chasta. I work at the intersection of higher education and capacity development of bureaucrats. I've also worked with you.
Deepak, and then Shireen. Deepak?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Sam. I'm Deepak. I'm from Nepal, now in Chicago. I'm mostly interested in climate change adaptation and recently more climate change, migration, and conflict nexus. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Shireen and I'm from Jordan. I worked as a policy analyst with a special focus on Jordanian domestic affairs and political reform.
And Soumya, and then Shagun. Soumya?
I'm Soumya and I'm from India. And I've been working around helping organizations working in development, governments, nonprofits, philanthropies, leverage innovations in tech and data science methods. So as you can imagine, I'm very excited to speak with you.
Shagun?
Hi, Sam. My name is Shagun. I'm from Nigeria. I help harness the youth power for social economic development.
Wafa, and then Haneen. Wafa?
Hi, my name is Wafa. I'm a Palestinian citizen of Israel. Before coming to Harris, I worked in the Israeli government in integrating minorities into the Israeli labor market. And I am interested in peace building and gender.
Hi, Sam. I'm Haneen. I'm from Pakistan. Before coming to Harris, I was working with the Pakistani government on issues of gender, peace, and security, and I'm also interested in nuclear security in South Asia. Thanks for joining us today.
Natika, and then Annie.
Hi, Sam. I'm Nitika from Hong Kong and India, and I work in education for disadvantaged populations. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sam. I'm Annie. I'm from New Jersey. I'm interested in working with adolescent girls on reproductive health and economic empowerment.
Guilherme?
Hi, my name is Guilherme. I'm from Brazil. I used to work in the Ministry of Energy and Mines and Energy, and I used to be an entrepreneur too.
And Matthew?
Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm based in Chicago. I'm studying global conflict and refugee resettlement in the United States.
Thank you, Matthew. Let's just see. Have I missed anyone that may have just joined? Okay, I think I have everyone. So thank you again, Sam, for joining us. We've, read your extended bio, and but apart from that, we'd love you to shed light on who you are, sort of your life experiences. Tell us what's not in your bio, what brought you to this work, how your lived experiences brought you to this point in your career.
Thank you. Well, Jamia, thank you very much. Thank you and Chester for giving me this opportunity. Greetings from Oak Brook, Illinois. I'm delighted to have bright, young, good-looking people to talk to. I have been locked up in my house for about 10 weeks, and it's good to see so many young faces together. So thank you for joining. Let me give you a little bit of my background and my journey from my perspective, which would help us, hopefully, in our broader conversation. I was born and raised in a small little tribal village in the poorest of the poor areas of India, Orissa, near Kalahandi district, in 1942. My parents migrated from Gujarat to Orissa, looking for work in 30s. And my parents were very poor. My father had 4th grade education. And those were the early days of India's independence in the coming. So there's a lot of excitement in general public about freedom, democracy, new leadership. And Gandhi was the role model for all of us. Being from Gujarat, that's where my parents came from, Gandhi was the ultimate hero. So we all grew up talking about, thinking about, sort of discussing Gandhi. There were no formal schools in the town I was in. So I was sent to a boarding school in Gandhian boarding school at the age of 9, which was about 1,000 miles away from my parents. That's where I learned real Gandhian values: discipline, truth, trust, inclusion, diversity, freedom, values, character. All of these things meant so much growing up that it became a way of life without knowing that you are following these things. Trust was the core of all of it. Went to school there, graduated from college. I was the first one in the family to ever get a degree. Got my BS in physics, got my master's in physics, fell in love with a beautiful young girl on campus. And one fine morning, read in the newspaper that President Kennedy has decided to send man onto the moon. I was young, energetic, a little bit stupid, and I decided to come to America. Took a boat from Mumbai to Karachi, Karachi to Aden, Aden to Egypt, Egypt to Naples, Genova, took a train from Genova to London, took a train from London to New York, and then a bus, Greyhound, from New York to Chicago. I've been in Chicago for 55 years. This is my home. When I came here, I realized that it takes 7 years to get a PhD in physics. I had a girlfriend in India, so I changed my field, went to electrical engineering, got a master's, called my girlfriend here, got married in Chicago, and started my life. Worked for a telephone company, got a lot of patents in those days. After spending 8 years with them, decided to start my own business. Build a company with two local businessmen, Mr. Penny and Mr. Brown, in Downers Grove, Illinois, and sold it to Rockwell International in 1979-80 for about $50 million cash in those days. Made a little bit of money, and that really empowered me to do things I wanted to do. I never had money. In the process, I called one by one my entire family to Chicago. All my 7 brothers and sisters, my parents, my wife's father, my wife's brother, put everybody through college, and that's all my wife and I did for 20 years. This was considered a great privilege for both of us. Then, after I made a little bit of money, I decided to go to India after a long, long time. And when I went there, I couldn't call my wife back because the phones didn't work. So a little bit of arrogance and a lot of ignorance said, I'm going to fix this. Then I spent 10 years working on telecom and IT in India. Fortunately, met Mrs. Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister. Later, her son, Rajiv Gandhi. We were just about the same age, so we clicked. And my model was Indian model of development. Indigenous development, rural telecom, local production, Indian young talent, best of the best technology, microprocessors, C++ language in 1980. All of these things we built locally from scratch. In the process, I gave up my nationality. I was a US national then. I became Indian national again because you couldn't work for Prime Minister being US. There were headlines in the paper that US has planted CIA man in Prime Minister's office. You know how media is. So I worked for 10 years with Rajiv Gandhi, then got involved in drinking water, literacy, immunization, edible oil, that is cooking oil, milk production, and telecom. At one time, I had 11 million people working on all of these programs. It was romantic. You could hardly sleep. It was like being on drug all the time. Then I had a heart attack. I had a quadruple bypass. Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi got shot, and I ran out of money because I never took salary in India. So I had to come back to US. But by then I had given up my nationality, so I didn't have a visa to come back. So I came back as a tourist, but you couldn't work as a tourist. So I had to start a business in Milwaukee, apply for a green card. But starting business again didn't interest me. So I worked with the UN and set up a bank in London to fund telecom in all emerging markets, mainly Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So I spent 7 years commuting between Chicago and London. Then built a business here for mobile wallet. I had about 50 patents on mobile wallet right from 1998. I sold that company to MasterCard in 2014. In the process, when Dr. Manmohan Singh became Prime Minister, I decided to go back to continue my journey in India. Now that the telecom was done, I wanted to work on knowledge. So I became chairman of the National Knowledge Commission, became chairman of the Innovation Council, worked on Digital India, and spent about 10 years on and off with Dr. Manmohan Singh, working on some of these big ideas. In the process, did work on railway reform, smart grids, public broadcast, and several other initiatives. Then we lost elections. I decided to come back to Chicago. Now I'm busy in several startups that I fund, give a lot of talks, interact with young people like you all. And then I have 5 foundations that I run. Food Bank in India, a big sort of university where I'm a chancellor in India for transdisciplinary medicine. Think tank in Paris, a very interesting foundation called Global Knowledge Initiative, just focused on Africa, based out of Washington, DC, that I started about 10 years ago. So I keep busy. I sort of, like to be busy because that keeps me going. I enjoy life. I have wonderful 2 children. I have great 2 grandchildren. I'm content. And that's what Gandhi taught me. Gandhi taught me to be simple, family man, focused on service. Money will come and go. Money don't interest me, but I need money to live. I don't want to spend my life making sure that the pile of money grow. I want to make sure I grow. And to me, life is a journey full of experiences. And the message I have for young people is you can do anything. If I can do it coming from a very low caste, poor family in tribal India, you can do a lot more. You are better equipped. You live in a better environment. To me, connectivity is the core of everything. I believe for the first time in the human history, we are all connected. It is really a truly global village. And to me, only 2 things matter: planet and people. So when I heard from some of you that you are working on climate control, climate change, climate issues, that is the issue that affects our planet today. And then people, we are all same, irrespective of race, religion, background, diversity. We got to love each other. We got to work for each other. And that's the life Gandhi taught me. I'm almost colorblind. It don't make any difference to me. I don't care about your religion. You do whatever you want to do. I love you. I work with you. I have no enemies in life. And I think we all need to raise ourselves beyond petty politics. I worry about what I see in India based on Hindutva's idea. I worry about US. When I see things going on in US, I worry about the world. I think world needs a whole new paradigm. World was last designed after World War II by US, which focused on democracy, human rights, capitalism, consumption, military, which built institutions like UN, World Bank, NATO, WTO, IMF, GDP, GNP. And I believe a lot of these things don't make sense anymore in a connected world. We need a whole new design of the world, which is more based on inclusion, more based on conservation and not consumption, more based on non-violence. And these are the things I'm studying and working and exploring. So with this background, I'm going to open up for conversation. I'm sorry I've taken a little more than you gave me, but I don't get a chance to talk to bright young people like this all the time. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm open for whatever questions you have.
Thank you. You talked a little bit earlier about indigenous development, and sort of inherent in that name is respect and dignity that a lot of marginalized communities often aren't given. Can you talk a little bit more about that and sort of what that means in the world of IT and telecom?
See, now, because of telecom, we are all connected and we have access to best of the best minds, best of the best talent. When I was growing up, you couldn't get any information. Information was locked up, was controlled by a handful of people, handful of libraries, handful of universities. Now information has been democratized. But our democracy is centralized. So we need decentralized democracy. My dream is to take a community of 2 million people as a working entity, and around 2 million people build self-sufficient infrastructure. Why should my tomato that comes to my dining room table travel 1,400 miles? Why can't I grow tomato in my community? So we got to decide what needs to be localized, what needs to be globalized. There is great respect for genetic pool of talent, of fruits, vegetables, grains, culture, art, music. All of that needs to be promoted at local level. So indigenization to me implies celebrating local capabilities, building on local capabilities, and not expect everything to come from China. Not expect everything from outside just because it is 10% cheaper. So indigenization means getting local talent to flourish, challenge them, nurture them, give them support system. And 2 million is large enough community to have your own good college, have your own good hospital, have your own good schools, have your own good transportation system. Today what happens is all urban areas are well equipped. The rest of the people are completely ignored. So you have rushed into urban areas, and all urban areas are heavily populated, whether it is Mexico City, Mumbai, Delhi, New York, or whatever. And you see what coronavirus is telling us, that urbanization spread these kinds of things faster. Globalization doesn't mean everybody needs to travel all the time. Now we have learned that we can use modern tools and minimize travel, not avoid travel. But I don't need to go to Japan for half an hour meeting. And these are the lessons of indigenization. Okay. So I want to be short so other people can answer more.
Great. Soumya, I saw your hand raised.
Hi, Sam. This is Soumya.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. So you worked very closely with the government in building sort of the building blocks, the technical infrastructure for what went on to become the telecom industry and then the IT industry. And in India, we're at this sort of cusp of now having to set up that similar infrastructure, but for big data applications and IoT and things like that. As somebody who's worked closely with the government and was able to do that in a more collaborative fashion, I wanted to know your thoughts on what is happening in India right now, where a lot of these tech stacks and infrastructure is being built by voluntary organizations. iSpirit to name one. And they've done great work. Aadhaar is a technological marvel. They're now setting up the UPI system, which is also a grave necessity. But how can we make sure that this is not a cult group of technocrats, and how can we make it more collaborative and more democratic and more representative? And is there a need to do that? Perhaps this is the only way innovation can work.
See, first of all, when we started Telecom, there were 2 million phones, zero software export. Today in India, we have 1.2 billion phones, and we export $150 billion worth of software services and all that. To do this, according to me, required 3 things. 1, political will. If Rajiv Gandhi had not given me the political will, we wouldn't be able to do what we did. 2, domain expertise. You need deep domain expertise. People who are shallow at the top can't get anything done. They can get media attention, but you need that very deep understanding of vertical field. And 3, young talent. Because a lot of work has to be done by young people. But if young go off on their own and try to do it, they don't have the deep understanding. They think they know it, which is good, but they've learned from CNN. Sound bites, little bit of here, little bit of there. They can talk a big game, but they can't get anything done. Believe me. Because to build a nation is very different from building a product. So I know the effort we all went into Aadhaar. You know, I worked with Nandan for, you know, many, many months. Okay. And all of these products require a lot of collaboration. But at the end, you need that champion, domain expert. Around that domain expert, everything hangs. Distributed development doesn't work in a complex country like India. You see, for example, in the US, we have 1,800 databases in the government. You can't work like that because IBM has their own product to sell, Oracle has their own product to sell. You need some level of centralization, some level of standardization, but you also need decentralization. So you need that ability to say, this should be centralized, this should be decentralized. So you need the architecture which has to have domain expertise. UID architecture was the key. Then everybody implemented it. So I think big data analytics and all that is going to be important in India, but we don't have good information. Our information is not in order. I mean, look at what is going on right now with COVID-19. All that information is garbage. So why do you build big data with this garbage information? And good information comes from trust, from truth. When you don't promote truth and lie publicly, whether it is, you know, President Trump or Mr. Modi, okay, you cannot have good data. You're misleading people. You got to believe in science. And science is all about truth, searching for truth. And big data and analytics will be useful when you have focus on truth. Trust your data. And that's the challenge right now. So we get there, but it's a journey.
Thank you, Sam. I just wanted to follow up on that because technology and innovation have had huge implications for international development, especially with regard to like the SDGs, right? And for the good, but good intentions can only go so far in the wrong hands, as you've alluded to. There are fears about privacy and data collection, but there's no good policy without good data. But at the same time, sort of in this world, in a pandemic, we're collecting data from your cell phone, right? And trying to track you. And so then it becomes controversial. So how can we straddle both of these very important aspects?
See, first of all, we need to be clear that data belongs to me. Unfortunately, all data policies today are designed such that data belongs to big business, whether it is hospital, or it is Google, or it is Facebook, or whatever. It is my data. Unfortunately, in early days, we didn't realize the impact of taking all the cookies out. I mean, you come in with your software on my computer, and through cookies, you take all kinds of stuff without my knowing. Who gave you license to do that? I would like to question all these big people, whether Microsoft or whatever, saying, you have no right to take data from me without my permission. But you do it today. People allow that. Governments allow it. So when it comes to health data, security data, it's my data. I need the right over it. I need to decide who I share with, who I don't share with. Like we have this new application in India, you know, for COVID. Do I want to use it? Probably not. Okay. Because why would I want my, Bluetooth to be on all the time? So ultimately, privacy, piracy, freedom matter. We are not China. We are not a country who do not respect freedom. At the end of the day, we are democracy. We believe in freedom, and I ought to have that freedom. But the policies are not designed like that. And it's a problem, it's a challenge.
Dang Yang, I see you have your hand raised. Can you unmute?
Hi, Sam. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm sorry my question is not super professionally related, but you mentioned a couple of times you said you have an amazing life. So even though I am not, I am very fortunate and grateful for what I'm having now, but sometimes I cannot say like, the same kind of thing so confidently because, as a gay person, as a sexual minority, I just don't say like their future. And obviously Anderson Cooper just had his new baby. Everything seems like perfect for him, but I just don't say like that's a some future can happen to me soon. So I was wondering, can you share with us your secret of just achieving an amazing life? Thank you.
I don't think there is any secret. It's just a coincidence. Luck in life, lot of good friends, lot of good people, good wife, good children, just luck. Okay, I don't think there is a formula to success as such, except hard work. Harder you work, luckier you get. You do 10 things, 2 work, 8 don't work. Nobody talks about things that don't work. Everybody talks about things that work. I had 2 quadruple bypasses. I had cancer. Didn't work. What do? That's life. You have to move on. So you have to just keep at it and think of it as a journey. Don't celebrate success too much because there will be failure. And don't be upset about failures also because there will be success. So just look at this as a journey. Be nice to everybody. And these are the Gandhian values. To me, Gandhi is all about truth, trust, love, inclusion, diversity, non-violence, freedom, democracy. These are basic ideas. Respect for other person, discipline, not rocket science. But how many people practice it? It's not very easy to practice truth, believe me. It's very difficult to practice truth. And once you practice it, you can sleep at night comfortably. You don't need to worry about anybody. So it's a path that you select in your life. It is your option. And you got to take responsibility for it. You can't blame the rest of the world for it. Saying, oh, world was nasty to me, that's why I didn't succeed. You got to take responsibility. So I don't know whether I answered your question.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Steve, I see your hand up. Can you unmute?
As I said, I worked for 3 years in the Ministry of Mines and Energy. And always in those 3 years, there was a huge tension between the environmental area of the government and the infrastructure area of the government. I was one of the people responsible to make the to communicate with the minister. And I remember we still have a project that is to build a road in the north of the Amazon, where it is the only place in Brazil which is not interconnected in the grid. And we depend on the Venezuela, and the situation in Venezuela was problematic. And always with this problem of environmental issues, indigenous issues, and the progress, the infrastructure. And now the climate change still really, I noticed it's still really hard to work about climate change with these people, these engineers that for years work in this mindset of the infrastructure of the 80s and the 90s. How do you suggest to have a better communication with them, with those investors and with these policymakers in infrastructure?
You know, Brazil is one of my favorite countries. I spent a lot of time in Brazil in 70s. All your digital telephony infrastructure. I went there and spent a month in Campinas. And Brazil reminds me a lot about India. So I think the key issues relate to basically what are you trying to optimize? See, large number of people in government and bureaucracy work on perk, privilege, and patronage. They are not trying to optimize what public wants. They are trying to optimize something else. So if in mining you are just trying to optimize financial gain, you will damage environment. So collectively, first negotiation has to be, what are we trying to optimize? Because one group want to make money, another group want to make environmental friendly decisions, third group wants to please their bosses, and that's why there are conflicts. If collectively we can decide that we are trying to optimize first environment, then monetization, then something else, then I think your negotiations become a little easier. It's never simple because you have at the table different interest groups and everyone looks at world only from their specific interest. And if you agree on broader interests first, job becomes a little easier. That's all.
Thank you. Tamar, I see your hand raised. Can you unmute?
Hi, Sam. For being with us, Tamar. My question goes back to what you have already told us, somehow. I wanted to ask you, how do you think, how important is planning to achieve, a good and successful and happy life?
How do you say it again?
How important is to have a good plan? And what do you think about the importance of planning?
I am big on planning. So I do a PowerPoint presentation on myself for 10 years and every year. When I turned 70, I had a plan for next 10 years, assuming that I'll live. I'm 78 now. I review that plan every year. Then I have a yearly plan. And my plan includes several elements. It is not a financial plan. It's a plan on what I want to do with family, what I want to do with myself, what I want to do in business, what I want to do in social sector. So I have a plan which is sort of more integrated plan, which is not a financial plan, okay, but which is a plan which mobilizes all my resources. And not that I succeed in every plan. Every year I'm short of few things, but that's okay, because that plan becomes my target. And then I review myself, that plan every 3 months. But you have to be honest to yourself. Sometimes I wind up expecting too much and it doesn't work out. So that's okay. Don't get too disappointed. Planning is very important part because then you know how to use your resources. The best thing you have is your time. And that's the most expensive thing you have, is your time. how do you want to use your time in 2020? That's a very important question. What do you want to accomplish? Okay. And I agree, planning is the key. If you don't plan, things don't work out, but be flexible in planning. Don't get disappointed if you don't accomplish everything. That doesn't mean plan doesn't work. Okay, then you have to tweak your planning as you go along. And it's a part of discipline in life. I keep black diaries. Like this, I have it not here, but like this, I have a black diary. And I have 54 years of black diary. It's in my box. I can go and tell you exactly what happened on 17th of February, 1974. Okay, now that's a discipline. I learned that from Gandhi. But everybody starts a diary in the first month of the year. And then there is nothing in the diary in the last month of the year. So again, it's a discipline. Every day, by the time I get out of my shower, my day is planned. Plus or minus 20%. Planning is very important. So I agree. Okay.
Yeah, straight over to you. I see your hand up. Yara.
Thank you. Hi, Sam. I thought it was really inspiring, your story about how you were very well established in the US and you decided to go back to India and work on development there. My question to you is, what inspired you to start the Global Knowledge Initiative, and what advice would you give to somebody who would like to collaborate with it?
Very good. Thank you. We do a lot of work in Africa, East Africa, South Africa. I have a friend who invited me to speak at an event organized by State Department in US when Condoleezza Rice was the secretary. So there were 400 presidents of all US universities. And since I was chairman of the Knowledge Commission, I was invited to speak and I spoke there. And I realized that there are so many experts there who want to help. So I said, look, the best thing we can do is help African countries with US knowledge. So I put together a little money and with Nina Fedorov set up in Washington Global Knowledge Initiative. You can Google it. And our idea was to take American talent to help solve big problems in Africa. I'll give you one example. We found that in Rwanda, their coffee started smelling like potato. And they lost 2 years of coffee production. And nobody knew what was the issue. So we got some US scientists together. They went to Rwanda and they found out after 6 months of study that some kind of a fungus was growing. They found the medicine or remedy, killed that fungus, and Rwanda's coffee came back to normal. Now, this is a huge contribution that nobody has noticed. It was done by 4 or 5 key American scientists. Very simple, humble people, but we got that organized. So now we do a lot of training on innovations and all that. It's all non-profit. And we believe Africa needs a lot more focus than world is paying attention to today. Because Africa is going to be 50% of world population by 2100. It's the fastest growing part of the world in terms of population. And we can't ignore Africa. Today, Africa is not on the radar. And this is the time for Africa to be on the radar. So I'm requesting a lot of my friends and colleagues saying, hey, we need to look at Africa differently. Okay. African problems are our problems, global problems. But everyone says Africa is not a market ready yet. When the market is ready, they'll go. See, the whole thing is market oriented. Everything is about money. Can I make money in Africa? Then I go. If I don't make money in Africa, I don't go. Okay. And that has to change. Okay. You have so much news in the media about markets, money, politics. You have very little news about development. You have very little news about life of the people. But that's the kind of system we have built. And my request to everybody would be to start paying attention to Africa now, to help the world, not just help Africa.
Deepak, I think I may have missed a question in the chat. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Jamia. Well, Sam, thank you. It's very great to hear your very successful, motivating, and encouraging life story. You in some point you said that irrespective to, you should change your ambition irrespective to any religion, color, or social marginality. But for that, the policy is the main point. These days, in most of the countries, especially in Asia or in other countries as well, the elite capture is there in terms of the policy process and in the places where the people have the policy. But in this case, the social marginal people, especially social marginal people, are having very difficulty to chase their ambition. In that case, so I was wondering, how would you respond on the strategy in marginal communities to employ so that they also could reach into the leading position of policy process?
First of all, my friendly advice to people who are feeling marginalized is don't feel marginalized. I'm a son of a carpenter. I'm a very low caste person. It didn't bother me. Education redefined my caste. Knowledge empowered me. Okay, I don't care who I'm talking to. It doesn't disturb me that there are high caste people at the table. I have to be heard. And I have to have a message to be heard. You have to capture that seat at the table. You never get to the table unless you capture the seat. And you can't capture that seat if you think you are marginalized. No, I'm not marginalized. Why should I be marginalized? I have all the knowledge. I'm not marginalized. I don't want to be considered marginalized. I never took advantage of all the scholarships personally. Even in US, as a minority, I can get more business advantage in US. I never did that. I said, that's not for me. Why should I do that? Let somebody else do it. Just because I'm a minority and I can get better government orders, I don't want to do that. Because I don't consider myself marginalized. You might consider me marginalized. And that's the attitude we need. So when I talk to my friends who work on, Dalits and all in India, I tell them, don't feel like Dalits. If you feel like Dalits, they'll make you sure you feel like Dalits. Why do you feel like Dalits? You feel like Brahmin, na? Okay, you may be Dalit, but you feel like Brahmin. And let them worry about it. So the change has to come in your mind. If you feel you are marginalized, you will remain marginalized. Don't feel you are marginalized. You are highly educated. You are empowered. And you are not marginalized. And that would be my way of looking at it. Okay.
Serene?
Hi, Sam. You mentioned political will earlier, and I work in public policy, and I was wondering if you have any advice on how to persuade decision makers, whether we're inside the policymaking institutions or outside, on how to persuade them to carry out a change that matters for younger people, but they're not convinced that it's important for various reasons, or they're resisting change. So if you have any advice on how to work with that.
See, world needs more change makers. We do not have enough change makers in the world. Young who need to promote change naturally are busy finding a good job, trying to make ends meet, start their families and all that, which is normal. As a result, Those who are in position of power want to keep the power. They don't want to change. So if you are really committed about one particular change, whether it's in environment or it is in business or this policy, that policy, you got to articulate and become champion of the change. You write, you talk, you become a public figure on that change, on that issue, and people will pay attention. People realize that talent matters at the end of the day. If they saw you as the champion of that particular cause, they will move towards you. But you got to work to bring to a level where they begin to pay attention to you. They are not going to pay attention to you if you are not visible, because everything is too noisy. You look at social media, it's too noisy. You don't know who to believe, who not to believe. But if you take a cause and are visible, championing that cause, people will notice you. And then you'll be able to convince them and get their political will. It's a lot of work.
Barry?
Hi, Sam. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. So entrepreneurship looks very different for young people in low-income economies than it does in the developed world. And young people persistently talk about the limited supply of capital for small enterprises because the capital markets are not, deep enough in their countries, or they don't have the collateral to secure the loans. So I'm wondering how you would advise or encourage such a young entrepreneur with regards to navigating such an economic landscape.
See, first of all, I have a very different view of startups and entrepreneurship and venture capital and all that. I don't have a Western view of this. It is not about creating Silicon Valley in Zimbabwe. I won't worry too much about it. I want Zimbabwe young people to solve local problems using local talent and not take the Western model and try to build Zimbabwe Google. Not worth it. So what we are doing today is we are taking this Silicon Valley model and we want to plant it everywhere. Get me investment capital, I'm going to create a global market, this, that. No. Don't start with that. Can I really improve the quality of fruits in Zimbabwe? Can I provide cold storage? Can I improve immunization? Can I create better teachers? Can I grow more trees? Can I improve security? Talk of local problems to be solved. And that doesn't require too much capital. And once you start from there, capital will come to you. You won't have to look for capital. Then people will notice that, my God, Zimbabwe mangoes are the best, because some local person changed that. And then they will say, okay, here is the capital to grow more mangoes, send it to Europe, send it to America. Okay. So development has to be bottom up and not top down. See, today's model of development is top down and not bottom up, because capital is at the top. So they like top down approach because they can control it. Okay. So when you look at venture capital model, with all the respect to them, and I'm also party to it, what they want is 2-3 young people who will sweat for next 5-10 years. They'll give them 5-10% of the company at the end, or 20%. They'll put out the money. They don't like people like me, okay, because I'm a loose cannon for them. So they like young people. My advice to young people is solve local problem. Money will come to you. Okay.
Ritika, can you also introduce yourself and unmute?
Hi, Sam. Thank you for your talk today. I'm from Hong Kong and India. And I just wanted to ask, the title of your talk is Entrepreneurs and Policymakers, One and the Same. How do you think entrepreneurs and businesses affect policymaking today, especially in India? And do you think that that's the right way to go about policymaking?
See, all the business policies take into consideration major organizations in India like CII, FICCI, ASSOCHAM. These are business organizations. These organizations have thousands of members from business community. So if you are putting together a policy on broadband, let's say, these industry people have input into government. So they work with the government to create policies, not that they succeed all the time. But as an individual entrepreneur, if you try to change the policy, it's going to be difficult. But as an individual entrepreneur, part of the business association gives you bigger voice. So entrepreneurs should work with the industry associations, whether it is broadband or it is agricultural policy or it is, transportation policy. When as an industry group, you go to government, you have better chance of influencing that policy. Go ahead.
Just to follow up on that, what would you say about someone like Reliance in that case and their monopoly in many ways over industry and policy in India?
Okay, Reliance is a gorilla. It is very similar to Google here. It is very similar to Facebook here. It is very similar to General Motors at one time, which is part of the structure we have created all over the world, where big industries control a lot of policies. It is unfortunate. And that's why there is a Monopoly Act, which is hardly followed in many countries. Okay. And monopolies are allowed to be bigger and bigger. Like in US in '84, we decided that telecom monopoly AT&T was too big, so we broke it up. We broke AT&T to 7 operating companies, and AT&T, because it was too big. Are we prepared to break existing monopolies? No. Do we need to break some of the existing monopolies? Yes. So it's a global challenge. And when you are in that power, you tweak policy a little bit and your profit goes up. And they do it all the time.
Sam, I know that we're coming on time and you have been gracious enough to say we can go over. So
take your time. I have all the time.
All right. So I'll just ask, I'll ask 2 more then. Can you talk about your thoughts on innovation in AI and technology? And I'm specifically thinking of efficiency for sustainable development. So we're making all these strides where, perhaps at some point when we're out of lockdown, we'll be in driverless cars and, all of these things, steel, leather, all of this infrastructure that creates jobs will also go away through innovation. So this inefficiency will be removed. And so how do we balance these trade-offs of the loss of jobs with our innovation and our efficiency and sustainable development models?
This requires 1-hour conversation. Okay, I'll try to be brief. But this is a very interesting topic because the way we understand job today is going to be very different from the way the jobs are going to be turning out in future. You will not have 40-hour-a-week job. You will not have a pension program. You will not have all of the benefits that you get today. Okay. So the whole definition of job is going to change. Now let's go back and talk a little bit about connectivity. Connectivity has 3 dimensions. One most important dimension beside democratization of information is demonetization. Connectivity is going to demonetize everything. So let's look at Uber. You got Uber, I don't need a car. So when self-driven car comes in, 5 years, 10 years from now, I won't own a car. I won't need garage. I won't need driver's license. I won't need insurance. And we will not produce 50 million cars a year. We'll produce 5 million cars a year because 90% of the time car is parked. So all of the auto industry jobs will vanish. But then transportation would be free. That city tax will include transportation. You can call any car you want, go wherever you want to go. Maybe in the beginning, they'll give you only 100 miles free or whatever. Okay. So today, telecom is almost free. Look, we can do all this without any cost. Okay. Energy is going to be free in the next 10 years because you'll have a little, battery pack in the back of your house and you'll generate all the energy you need. Transportation is going to be free. Education, I don't need to spend $200,000 to get an MBA. I can go online and learn MBA for $200. May not be the best like Harvard, but it'll be good enough. Okay. Education is going to be free. So what do we do with life then? Food, we are going to grow so much food that the price of the food is going to go down. Okay. So if food is free, energy is free, transportation is free, telecom is free, what do I work for? I don't need to work 40 hours a week to live. World population is going to stabilize at 11 billion. Okay, right now 8 billion is going to go to 11 and stabilize. Then all this asset built. Look at today with coronavirus, I don't need office. I have an office. I pay $6,000 a rent. I don't need it. I mean, this is great. But because everybody has office, I also have office. You will come to a point, large number of people will work from home. Farmer has to work in the field. That's okay. Truck driver has to drive, but then it'll be self-driven truck. So all of a sudden in America, 5 million truck drivers will be without job. So this whole new revolution of big data, analytics, automation, robotics is going to give us a lot of free time to explore life, to learn about each other, to explore the world. And we won't have to spend 40 hours a week to live. Today, most of your life is spent on survival. And at the end of 60 or 70, you find out you have very little left, and all you did is make your ends meet. That's going to change with technology. That's how I see it.
Thank you. Haneen, I think you may have joined late because of me. So do you want to introduce yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jamia. Did get to introduce myself just a little bit in the beginning, but as just to remind, I'm from Pakistan and I've been working on peace building between India and Pakistan and also on nuclear security in that region. So my question is related to what you've been talking about connectivity, because I think that really resonated with me. And it's also related to some of the work that I've been doing in the past. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about the role of like emerging technology and entrepreneurs and telecom and helping sort of foster, better relationships between people from different countries, particularly in like conflict areas. So how can we use these new tools that we have to help resolve some of these conflicts and to sort of alleviate the suffering that people who are, in these war-torn areas are going through? How can we use these tools to their advantage?
Thank you. I've been to Pakistan several times, Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, and I feel at home. I'm at home. It doesn't sound like a different country to me. They eat like me, they sing my song, they are my cousins, what difference does it make? Okay, so he goes to mosque, so I also go to mosque with him. I don't care. Okay. People to people is the key to peace building. Politicians cannot build peace. If there is enough business going on, between India and Pakistan, if there are enough student exchange, if there is enough connectivity with universities, libraries, young programs and all that, automatically there'll be peace and understanding. Because they're same people. If people in Africa are same, why can't people in Pakistan be same as India? Okay. Everybody wants to live in peace because they all have one life. They don't want to lose their close ones in war. Nobody says, I'm happy losing my relatives in fight. It has just created this notion. And only young people can change that. But young people don't do that. Okay, young people also join that bandwagon of hate, wrong publicity. Okay. Best way to achieve peace is to do business together, is to exchange, cultures together, is to share a lot of the resources together. Then there is no fight. Okay. I mean, they've lived together for thousands of years. Just because somebody came and drew a line can't make you enemy. But it's hard. You talk like this in India today, you are anti-national. Okay. I mean, I said something during last election and everywhere, oh, Sam is anti-national. But that's crazy. Okay. People do these things. You gotta have a big heart. For peace, you need big heart. Okay. Then only there could be peace. Petty people can't bring peace on the table. Okay. Only people with big heart can bring peace. I'll give you one simple example. It's a funny example. I never go shopping. Never. My wife does all my shopping, including shirts and jackets and shoes and socks and everything. So once I was in Delhi and she was shopping and I was standing there, nothing else to do. So I went into the shop and I saw one white shirt and I bought 3 of those shirts. So my wife came back and she said, what have you been doing? I said, I just was standing here. So I went inside and bought the shirt. She looked at the shirt. Said, how much did you pay? I don't remember, 500 rupees. She said, but the same shirt I saw for you at 300 rupees. So she went into the shop and started telling this guy that, look, I saw this 300 and blah, blah, blah. And this guy didn't know what happened. I said, look, you are entitled to cheat me. If you don't cheat me, who would you cheat? I said, I look like somebody you can cheat. It's okay. The guy couldn't understand. He said, what are you saying? I said, it's okay for you to cheat me. It's perfectly normal. The point is, you got to think like that sometimes. That if you're in negotiating position, you have to say, it's okay for you to take little away from me. And that requires big heart. Didn't make sense to fight that guy for 200 rupees. You got to let it go. And we don't let it go. We don't let go. Anyway, this is just a dumb example, but
Sam, can you close with advice detailing how the scholars can affect change globally, sustain a path of service, and maximize their international development portfolio? Just some words of wisdom to part with.
I may not be qualified to give you words of wisdom, but I will tell you what I tell my children. Okay. I tell them that the most important thing in life is yourself. You must learn to build good self. If you build good self within, which is disciplined, which is respectful, ethical, loving, caring, open, honest, which is analytical, creative, you will be able to accomplish everything. No business schools will teach you about building good self. Business schools teach you more about how to extract value than create value. You must focus on building good self. As soon as people meet you, they should feel he's a good human being. Nice person to know, nice person to be, nice person to trust. I think that's the biggest accomplishment. If you can do that, everything else will flow from there. So when you meet somebody, don't think of taking advantage of that person. Think of giving it to that person. Whosoever that is, privileged, underprivileged, doesn't matter. There is more joy in giving than taking at the end of the day. Because if you give, it comes to you. Automatically. It takes time. And the real challenge in life is to build a strong self. One of the things I learned in India is people have very fragile self-esteem. People get hurt very easily. You don't invite me to your party, I won't talk to you for 5 days. I mean, some people say that guy insulted me. I said, how can anybody insult you? Only you can insult yourself. Nobody can insult you if you don't want to be insulted. If you don't have good self-esteem, you cannot be a good team player. To be a good team player, you need good self-esteem. And if you are not a good team player, you can't get modern work done. All modern work requires teamwork. And my 2 cents worth is, let's build strong self of good people. We spend billions of dollars in building Six Sigma quality products, but we don't spend any money on building Six Sigma quality human beings. Why do we have so many people in prison in America? Why? There's no reason for America to have so many in prisons. We take great pride in building more prisons. Crazy thing to do. We put people in prison because they've committed some crime. Whatever the crime is, it may be drug. Now, drug is freely available. Look at the contradiction. We don't allow people to build good self. You know, the other day, I had a conversation with some couple of girls in my office about south side of Chicago. Why there is so much violence and all that. I said, you know, if I had a chance, I would take 100 top gangsters in Chicago on a world tour for a year. Just go travel. Go to India, go to China, go to Singapore, just travel. We are not going to do anything. We'll support you in travel. When they come back, I assure you they will change. They will have a different view of the world. Today, they are locked up in that environment. You have not given them a chance to build better self. Giving lectures don't help. You got to expose them to the world. There is a world out there which is so very different. And diversity needs to be celebrated. They don't know other part of the world. And how do you expect them to respect everything? So my message is very simple. Build good self, everything else will flow from there. Self also implies respect diversity. Don't worry about how the other person looks, what they practice in religion, what they eat, what their behavior is. Respect that. It's not easy to do, but if you do that, life would be much more interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Won't everybody give Sam a warm thank you?
I hope it was useful. I don't know.
It is very useful. I took everybody off of mute, but thank you. Just appreciate your time. Thank you again for just giving us all of your wisdom, sharing your journey with us, and especially during this time of, you know, self-reflection and as we're rounding midterms.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.